welcome to part 2 of my evidence in relation to Iona, the St. Columbas prophecies. And we were looking at 28 years and 28 days later and how things appear to be changing as I'm releasing my evidence and specific things happening. Now, I suspect that this was the information about this 28 years later movie was a distraction to deter me away from the actual Iona Island threat from these people. Just talking about the opening of the Notre Dame. Now remember, you had the release date of 28 years later confirmed only on the 6th of December. As all of this is going on, as I'm making my exposure on the 6th of December, the release date was confirmed. And here, this article on the left says that the reopening of Notre Dame will last for 6 months. Well, that ties in with the release date of the movie of the 20th of June 2025. Going back to the ley line map on the right, again, you can see the pentagon shape at the top. That's very important in satanic realms. Now remember, the Freemasons appear to be following a Luciferian occult, so the opposite of good, it's evil basically. And looking at the ley line map, this line at the bottom, so we've already looked at the one of Bournemouth on the left, and that led to Holy Island. This one leads from the Isle of Wight, which is very important. Those of you that followed my evidence, you have one of the Fleming families, which we'll come to later, was in my company. They were the ones that called the meeting to have me removed as a director for refusing to file forged bank documents. The Fleming family, you'll see later, linked to Ian Fleming, the James Bond movies, the intelligence agencies, but they also link to the monarchy, international governments, Russia, Ukraine. You'll see that from my other previous documents. I urge you to go and look at the Sunak documents, part 1 and part 2, if you've got access to them. But they also link to international banking fraud via JP Morgan and the Fleming family banking. But that specific person who's linked to my company, Deborah Fleming, was a former NHS chief executive in charge of a £700 million budget and 10,000 staff for the area of Dorset and Hampshire and Isle of Wight. Okay, so it's very important. So this line goes from the Isle of Wight and it goes all the way up the UK to this centre point. Okay, so it goes to this centre point. And you can see all these lines converge around the Pentagon. All of the points of the Pentagon converge in on this very point. And when zoomed in, that point, is Loch Moy with an island in the middle. And we had already established, myself and a small group of people, that there was an obelisk on that island. An obelisk, if you don't know, is a very phallic symbol and very important to Freemasons, and it even suggests being used as a gate to hell. So it was clear that that was an important location going by this map. But also on the corner of the Pentagon was Iona Island that we've been talking about, the prophecy that we're talking about. So on the 4th of December, I'd started a group. I just called it the Apostles because I realised this was a very religious thing that we were dealing with here, a very spiritual thing, and I'm guided by my faith without a shadow of a doubt. I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. I wouldn't have got to this point. I'm being guided by something far bigger than me, and it is all to aim for truth, transparency, saving children, saving humanity. So it is only a good thing, and I know exactly, I believe, what needs to happen to our system to ensure that that is implemented to save humanity from all of this. But anyway, I started this group on the 4th of December, and here's just showing screenshots from the WhatsApp of me saying I'm going to Loch Moy. So this was on the 6th of December. I was already, if we look at the map, okay, so bearing in mind that this is where Loch Moy is, I was literally right by Inverness at the time I found out about this location. That's where I was. So I believe I had to go there. I mean, to me, there was no coincidence. I was by this location that had been pointed out to me as being so important. So I went to that location on the 6th of December. And there was, as I said, lots of numerology around that date, and also in relation to the Archbishop of Canterbury. So I wanted to go there. I didn't know what I would find. So this is just confirming screenshots from the WhatsApp saying I'm going to the location, which I said earlier, and I'm going to send photographs as I go. And you can see me sending some of the photographs. And I went to, this becomes very important, the side of the lock, or near to it, I found some plaques. And it talks about Clan Macintosh of North America, Clan Chatan of the USA, and Clan Macintosh of Australia. So Macintosh was very important to the location. Here's the WhatsApp group. Sorry, hopefully you'll be able to make this out. And here was me with my photograph saying I can see the obelisk and can actually smell a fire. I thought I could smell a fire. And there's a not very good picture showing me, or showing the obelisk. I then found a little church at the side of the lock. I couldn't get on the island. I was hoping there'd be a little boat or something where I could get across, but there wasn't. And here on the left you can see me saying that there was a church. I put a photograph of the church. But it was locked and no one was around. I'm just looking for any interesting gravestones. There was one gravestone which was in the shape of an obelisk. There's only one obelisk shaped grave, but it's difficult to read. Surname is Mackenzie. MacDonald and Macintosh names also seem important there on the gravestones. And there's a picture of the raw image of the church that I sent. And just to confirm, the 6th of December was when I sent it at 15:27. So then we had this information. So I'd already received information about Roslin Chapel, and that being very important potentially in all of this. There was a suggestion that Mary Magdalene's remains may be under that chapel. If you don't know who she was linked to Jesus as his partner, I believe. And Roslin Chapel, when we researched it, was near Edinburgh, which we were getting the information to suggest could be the real Jerusalem. But also it was a Knights Templar location. Well, that ties in heavily with the Freemasons, and the world's oldest working Freemason lodge is in Edinburgh. There was also mention of the Holy Grail being linked potentially somehow to the Roslin Chapel. So it was clearly a very important location. And obviously we're on this important date, and I found nothing at Loch Moy, so I considered going to Roslin Chapel. So this is me saying I'm going to Roslin Chapel. And part of me was thinking I need to go there because there's going to be some sort of sacrifice, because these people love sacrifices, the evidence suggests. And maybe I'm meant to be sacrificed or something like that. I didn't know exactly what the point was, but we had also information that Julia Vandal, who overwhelming information suggested was the real Madeleine McCann, was flying to the UK by coincidence, supposedly, on the 6th as well. So I had information that she was flying to the UK on the same date. Okay, so I didn't know whether they were going to try and take her to the Roslin Chapel, because obviously we had connections to Mary Magdalene, and I had to consider that Julia's bloodline, or Madeleine McCann's bloodline, shall we say, is somehow linked to a religious element in all of this, and potentially the bloodline of Mary Magdalene. So anyway, I was going to go to the Roslin Chapel. Now, there are lots of doubts flying in my mind regarding many people that had been approaching me over the last 2 years. I'd found that many of them appeared to be infiltrators. So I put this comment, I hate not knowing who to trust. If I make the wrong decision tonight, then I'm truly sorry. Please know that I have tried my best to do the right thing at every step of this journey. That was sent at 2014 on the 6th. Now, one of these people in this group and now this is going to sound, everyone's got to have an open mind with this, had claimed that they believed they were Jesus, okay? Which I obviously had to take with a pinch of salt, but during a live call with that person, they provided information to me that led to very important evidence that they couldn't have known it was going to lead to, because it was me looking at the evidence and it wasn't easy to find, you see. So I had to consider that there was something in what this person was saying. But of course, I'd made this offer to go to Roslin Chapel, and I'd even offered my life for humanity, okay, to change the system. I'd offer my life for these people to take my life as a sacrifice, if necessary, to save humanity. But this person claiming to be Jesus didn't come in and say, Gary, don't look, I'll take your place in this. Didn't offer that. So to me, it just didn't ring true that it was Jesus, if he was at all. Everyone has to have an open mind with this, guys, okay? This is a spiritual war, okay? And 100% I believe I'm being guided by our Creator, okay? There's no other way I should have all of this information. Anyway, so Julia, aka potentially Madeleine McCann at this point, was flying over to the UK on this date. And suddenly there's a storm brewing where she was going to be flying into Cardiff. And there's a storm over Wales suddenly happening. So we're watching this on this WhatsApp group. Someone identifies that there's a HARP location in Wales. And here is an image showing that. Now, HARP, if you don't know what that is, it's a weather manipulation device. Now, I suspect these people have been manipulating weather to try and also bring about false prophecies. Okay? Because obviously Scripture talks about biblical events with the weather. Okay, so I think that's an element of what we're seeing. So anyway, this storm is happening over Wales, which is where Julia is supposed to be flying into on the 6th. And here's another article showing the weather effects down the coast of the UK. So of course we're thinking, okay, well maybe Julia won't fly into Cardiff because the winds were so bad. I think they were 90 mile an hour supposedly. So we're talking about this on the right. Someone's talking about the wind starting to pick up where they are. People were asking where I was, which was alarm bells for me. And someone was in contact with Julia supposedly around the time of this. So there's screenshots showing the images of their communication with Julia, checking in with her, worried about the weather and flights for her. Could you message them? So this was somebody else within the group. Could you message me when you land safely and confirm you are safe and with people you trust, please? So then there was considerations that maybe she's flying into Edinburgh as a diversion. Now, obviously, Edinburgh, I might not have said this, Roslin Chapel is right near Edinburgh. Okay, so I was thinking, my goodness me, she's being taken to Edinburgh. They're going to do something to Julia. Maybe I need to go and either save her or there'll be a sacrifice or something like that. And at that point, I was thinking I needed to go potentially. So there's this discussion about Edinburgh on the left. And on the right there, this is communication between Julia, according to the member of my group. They've asked him, did she land in Cardiff? No, she didn't, according to this. So at this point, so I get information coming in, which I haven't shown, I don't think, suggesting that Jesus may have never have been crucified as a sacrifice. Okay? Which is obviously very controversial. You know, I've been guided by our Creator, that's without a shadow of a doubt, and I have been following the belief in Jesus, and I believe in everything that Christianity says. So loving thy neighbour, thou shalt not kill, treating everybody how you basically want to be treated, of course. If we all did that in a rational state of mind, then we would all be in a much better place in this world, because in a rational state of mind we all know not to offend anyone else or affect anyone else or steal from anyone else, because we wouldn't want it done to ourselves. But we've come far from that, it appears. So I made the decision. It was a very difficult decision not to go to Roslin Chapel at this point. It just felt like the right thing to do. And I started to think that, and I had to consider that Julia may have been positioned right from the beginning, because she had these visions or information to suggest she was Madeline at around the same time that I was exposing or making inquiries with the fraud in my company in 2022. So I had to consider that she'd been positioned as part of this for a bigger deception. Now, I don't know if that's the case or not. Certainly the evidence that I've got suggests she's either Madeleine McCann or she's been positioned. It's going to be one of those two things. And I've had discussions with Julia about this since. She is adamant she is not positioned. Okay. So anyway, this is me saying I've decided not to go to Roslin Chapel. Let's pray that I made the right decision. Somebody suggested we then have a group call, and there was a few questions about where I was, which again, alarm bells. And on the right there, I'm just showing connections or messages, sorry, in relation to Brian Harvey. And this is because I've been having connections and conversations with Brian Harvey, who, if you don't know who he is, was a previous boy band member of E17. And this is me saying, I understand, I just spoke with Brian. He thinks I've been sent to set him up. I think I've lost him. Now, Brian has had very important evidence and information in relation to all of this, and we're going to come to that on another document, on my before Iona document. But it was clearly very important in all of this. And then this is me saying I sent Brian a long message. This included saying, I promise I will not message you again after this, but I think you're very important in all of this. Here are some screenshots of my evidence acquired from research regarding Watkins and Puddick so far. You can check it easily yourself. I've not had chance to put it into a document format. It links to the fraud and everything I'm talking about. I would not be sending you this if I was not working for anyone other than God or our Creator. And you'll be able to see that evidence in the before Iona document. But I think we need to cover Iona first. So then someone's more conversations or correspondence is happening with my group. And they're asking what I'm doing. I'm building evidence and asking what I'm going to be doing. And I put there's so much to consider and to process and consider. It's a minefield. And then on the right there, there's me saying saying messages where I feel that any threat from that Friday the 6th has been averted. It's good not to feel so much urgency about it all, okay? So I was thinking that something had been averted, and that's certainly what the evidence was suggesting. And on the left there, you can see me saying, I feel as though the pressure is off. I hope everyone feels the same, for now at least. Has anyone got any ideas of anything we should be doing? I'm collating all of the evidence that appeared to lead to averting a major incident on Friday. And then later, this is showing later on this group, on the 11th of December, 2 people leave this group. One of the people claiming that they were Jesus, and the other person who I really trusted, who is using a false name, Neo Anderson. Ooh. And we're going to show some more information in relation to those later. Moving on in the document. So going back to the Lindisfarne Partners company we were looking at. So within there you have Dmitry Chalov. And he also links to the New Muscovy Company Limited, which is slightly different, I believe, than the last one. And this was an older company, I believe, in 1998 it was started, so 3 years before the World Trade Center disaster. And you can see they changed their names a couple of times. But one of them was a name change in 2000 and then again in 2003, so either side of the World Trade Center disaster. Now remember, that removes accountability when they remove or change the company name, sorry. Now that is a fraudulent entity company. You can see the incorporation document on the left, Swift Incorporations and Jordan's. So it's a fraudulent company because when you search Jordan's Limited, you will see that its incorporation document has never been registered. Okay, the company name on there is Hammerplag Limited. That's never been registered. So it's an illegal, fraudulent entity company, and our governments would have known that. Okay, they would have absolutely known what they're doing. And also, these are the same two companies, Swift Incorporations Limited and Jordan's Limited, that started Exbourne Manor Freehold Limited, the company I was part of as a director, where this all started for me. Back into that new Muscovy company, we have this person, Natalia. And she's linked to Ivan the Terrible Productions Limited. And she's only linked to, I believe it's 3 companies. And this is one of them, Ivan the Terrible. And if we look on the incorporation document, it's linked to Duport Associates Limited. Well, that connects back to Dorset. Okay, to the members of Parliament for Dorset, which is where Bournemouth is located, where my company is. Now, who was Ivan the Terrible? Well, Ivan the Terrible lived from 1530 to 1584, commonly known as Ivan the Terrible. He was Grand Prince of Moscow and all Russia from 533 to 1547, and the first Tsar and Grand Prince of all Russia from 1547 until his death in 1584. Ivan's reign was characterized by Russia's transformation from a medieval state to a fledgling empire, but at an immense cost to its people and long-term economy. This is one part of the article. This is on Wikipedia. Ivan was a devoted follower of Orthodox Christianity, but in his own specific manner. He placed the most emphasis on defending the divine right of the ruler to unlimited power under God. Okay, this is what we are talking about here. These people in charge of our system believing they are gods. Okay, some scholars explain the sadistic and brutal deeds of Ivan the Terrible with the religious concepts of the 16th century, which included drowning and roasting people alive or torturing victims with boiling or freezing water, corresponding to the torments of hell. That was consistent with Ivan's view of being God's representative on earth with a sacred right and duty to punish. He may also have been inspired by the model of Archangel Michael with the idea of divine punishment. Ivan the Terrible was quoted as saying, "I will not see the destruction of the Christian converts who are loyal to me, and to my last breath I will fight for the Orthodox faith." Now, when you look at what we are seeing with all of this, that sums it up. Okay, these people in charge of our nations have been suffering, causing suffering, okay, through various methods, okay, under a criminal financial system. That's a fact. It's a criminal financial system, okay? There to exploit and victimize humanity, but in particular the most innocent of all, our children. Now, when you look at David Cameron's role in all of this, his grandfather was, according to the research, linked to MK and torture techniques against the masses. That was one of his roles. The research regarding MK that I have conducted links David Cameron back into MK under the new name of MK Search. Okay, now if this is correct, which the evidence suggests it is, deception is huge. The ability to manipulate mankind through MK pharmaceuticals, subliminal messages, radiation, but also through enticing them into sin through greed and sexual immorality and addictions to then control them. Well, that means there's not really been free will, has there? Because if they're being manipulated and suppressed to reach their true ascension, then there is not really true free will with humanity. And therefore, they cannot be judged in their masses because they have not been fairly treated and given that chance to use free will to make the decision between wrong and right. This also ties in with the applying of alcohol to take away moral conscience, so people don't act in a rational state of mind when they've been consuming a certain amount of alcohol, for example, or the evidence that's now being acquired to the international government organisations being linked to the drug supply and drug trafficking. Again, that creates irrationality, doesn't it? Back into the New Muscovy Company on the right, we have Francis Newell, and he's connected to the Liberty International Holdings Limited. Now remember, I said that this is linked to the World Trade Center disaster via that Muscovy Company. This is why, because this company, Liberty International, had already connected through to the World Trade Center disaster, and the National Council for Civil Liberties, where members of the UK government were part of, was linked to the Paedophile Information Exchange and the Liberty Group, okay, which then connects to Larry Silverstein via Silverstein Real Estates, and the removal of a company name from Westco Nominees Limited from their company documents, a complete removal of that company name, which is very serious fraud, to try and hide all of this fraud and the evidence connecting it. On the overview, we have 10 Fleet Place. Well, that links to the fraud via and to Tony Blair, I believe, and David Cameron. And I've just shown in the filing history some information here, some changes in addresses. Okay, very quickly. One in 14th of December 2021. Thinking KPMG, you can see, which is already linked to the fraud. Canada Square and Fleet Place. And then changing it back again. Okay, so this is how they avoid accountability and liability. They're using addresses they're not even affiliated or connected to. So there'll be no one there to take any litigation papers for any criminal activity, for example. Okay, they're avoiding it by doing this. And this is how governments, remember, are allowing this. So you can see they changed the address from Canada Square to Fleet Place. And then again in August 2022, as I'm making inquiries within my company, they're panicking and they changed the address from 10 Fleet Place, but they just changed the postcode. So all they've done is change the postcode, okay, to deliberately avoid accountability and liability because they were panicking. So let's go back to the research regarding Iona. Remember, we're talking about the prophecy of Iona by St. Columbas, or relating to Iona, the island. And when we search Iona, we can see within Companies House Records there's Iona Company Limited. And they had a previous company name of Shrine Park Limited. I find that quite interesting. Bearing in mind we're talking about spiritual warfare here, we have Shrine Park Limited. And within the people record of Iona Company, you have Stephen Ross, and he was appointed in 1991. Well, that's the same year as the Gulf War, which is all very relative to this. And he's linked to the Equity Charitable Trust. If you go in through the people record of that company, you have Colin Baker. My eyes are terrible. We'll come to that later, probably why. And they are linked to the Lullaby Trust Limited. The lullaby sounds childlike, doesn't it? The address, Union Street, features throughout the fraud. And this company was started the same year as the World Economic Forum. You can see the top left there, 1971. And the World Economic Forum are massively part of this. Remember, within 3 days of me sending my evidence to them, Klaus Schwab stepped down as the chair for the World Economic Forum. It was originally called the Foundation of the Study of Infant Deaths, in brackets, the. Now remember, this links heavily to child abuse, child neglect, taking children from their families, and lots of suffering to children. I mean, unimaginable suffering in relation to the fluid taken from these poor children at times of states of terror. And it's a fraudulent company. The is at the front, okay, of the company's incorporation documents, so they've falsified the register. Within that company, we have Sally Hogg, is linked to Play for Progress, but also Maturing Limited, spelt differently than maturing, but Maturing Limited. Bearing in mind we're talking about little babies and children, and what people like to do to them that are involved in this criminal system. And we're going to come to the next lot of evidence in part 3. God bless.